The house never felt like a trophy to me. When I bought it, I didn't post pictures or invite anyone over for a celebration. It was just a quiet milestone, one of those things you do when you've spent most of your life trying not to depend on anyone. A small brick place on a quiet street. Nothing extravagant, but it was mine. That detail had always mattered more than I admitted out loud. Growing up, ownership wasn't something I associated with security. In our family, things shifted depending on who needed them more. And somehow, my younger brother always needed them more. He was the one people described as sensitive, the one who needed encouragement, extra chances, protection from consequences. I was the responsible one. Responsible children don't get rescued, they get expectations. By the time I was 25, I had learned that distance was the easiest way to keep peace. Phone calls stayed polite, holidays stayed brief. No arguments, just careful boundaries. Buying the house was part of that boundary. My parents congratulated me when they first heard about it, but the reaction felt rehearsed, like they were applauding a decision they hadn't expected me to make alone. At the time, I ignored the feeling. A year later, my brother lost another job. That part of the story wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the phone call that followed a week later. My mother sounded warm at first, then careful, then persuasive. "Your brother needs stability," she said. "He's had a hard time. He needs somewhere to start over." I remember standing in my kitchen while she spoke, watching dust drift through the afternoon light. Eventually, she said it. "You have a whole house to yourself. Don't you think it makes sense for him to have it?" I thought she meant temporarily, a few months, maybe a year, but when I asked what she meant, she clarified it with unsettling certainty. "You could find somewhere smaller, something closer to work. Your brother could build a future there." She said it like she was describing a practical solution, not asking, proposing a rearrangement. I told her no, not angrily, just plainly. There was a pause on the phone that felt longer than it should have. After that conversation, the tone of communication changed. Calls stopped, messages became shorter. A few relatives started mentioning that my brother was trying to get back on his feet and that I should consider helping family. I stayed quiet. Then the letters arrived. Official envelopes, legal language. My parents were claiming that the house had originally been intended as a family property arrangement, that I had agreed years earlier to hold it until my brother was ready to take responsibility for it. It didn't make sense. The mortgage was mine. The purchase contract was mine. Everything was in my name, but they had filed documents with the court claiming otherwise. At first, I thought it was some kind of mistake. Then I hired a lawyer. He didn't react the way I expected when he read the paperwork. He didn't look shocked. He looked interested. "Did you ever sign anything transferring ownership?" he asked. "No." "Did your parents ever contribute financially?" "No." He leaned back slightly. "Good," he said quietly. Over the next few weeks, my lawyer became the calm center of the situation, while everything else grew louder. My parents told relatives that they were correcting a misunderstanding, that the house had always been meant for my brother. Apparently, the eviction process was already moving forward. The strangest part was living inside the house while other people spoke about it like it already belonged to someone else. I would make coffee in the morning and think about how many people believed I would soon be forced to leave. Eviction day arrived with a kind of stillness. My parents stood near the driveway when the officials arrived. My brother was there too, standing slightly behind them, his posture full of cautious confidence. He didn't look at me. My lawyer arrived a few minutes later. Everything felt procedural at first, quiet introductions, papers being exchanged. My parents looked composed, almost relieved. Then my lawyer asked for a moment. He handed a folder to the official overseeing the process. Inside were copies of the property transfer records from the original purchase, along with the documents my parents had submitted to the court. Side by side, the differences were impossible to ignore. The signatures they claimed existed didn't exist in the official records. Statements about family agreements had been added in their filing that contradicted the notarized documents. The official reading through the pages slowed down. "What is this?" he asked. My lawyer answered calmly, "These are the original property records. The documents submitted to initiate this eviction contain falsified claims of ownership." The word falsified hung in the air longer than anything else that morning.
My parents began talking at the same time, saying it was a misunderstanding, saying paperwork gets complicated, saying there must have been some confusion. The official closed the folder. "I'm going to need you to explain these discrepancies." For the first time that day, my brother looked directly at me. Not angry, just uncertain. The eviction process stopped there. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting, just officials asking careful questions, while my parents struggled to keep their explanation coherent. Eventually, everyone left. The driveway became quiet again. My lawyer lingered for a moment. "They crossed a legal line trying to force that claim," he said. I nodded. He didn't look triumphant, just matter of fact. "Take care of your house," he added before leaving. That evening, the rooms felt different, not because I had nearly lost them, but because something had finally ended. For most of my life, I had assumed family loyalty meant tolerating certain things quietly. That day proved something else. Sometimes distance isn't rejection. Sometimes it's the last remaining form of honesty. The house stayed exactly where it had always been, but the people who once treated it like something they could rearrange were suddenly very far away. And for the first time since I bought it, the silence inside felt completely earned.